Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. Fans, you're with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to bring you Countdown, episode number 81. That's right, fans. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you that today is a new grouping for Road to Comic of the Year. That's right, fans. If you're not familiar with Road to Comic of the Year, it's a bunch of my #1 comics that I have reviewed throughout the year, thrown into groupings. You guys vote to pick who you want nominated for Comic of the Year, and then it'll go into a pile, and we'll vote to see who does get that Comic of the Year. So that grouping will be up right after this week's countdown. Now, the countdown is a show where I count down the worst comic books, the worst comic from the week, all the way to the #1 comic of the week. So with that being said, we have 12 comics to talk about all together. We got 10 physical copies, 2 digital copies. So without wasting any more time, let's get started with Countdown, episode number 81. All right, number 12. This week's comic, worst one of the week, it should be no surprise to you by now, is the New 52 Future's End, issue number 27. Story wasn't bad. However, there was a lot of great books this week that came out, and Future's End is just one of those books right now where I'm kind of going through the motions with it. I just want to see where it goes and what happens to it, or if something starts to really develop here. And in this issue, we still don't get much. We get little glimpses of things that is going on with Arrow and Berta and Miko, on them trying to get to Catamus Island, or trying to find out where it's at, because they planted the signal on Deathstroke or whatnot. You get a little bit more information in this issue with Lois and Tim about how he was the Teen Titan, how he has all these items. That Lois had all these items, and it was led to him, and there's these coordinates that she had to go to, but she saw nothing there. And so there was a lot of talk going on with that stuff. And then as the issue progresses, we just get to see the heroes try to find the island. And then you get to see Lois here taking a leap of faith, which was Tim that said that, every once in a while you have to take a leap of faith. And basically what happens is Lois jumps out of a plane with nothing below her. So obviously there's a stealth device on this island that no one can see it. One of the kind of the better parts of this issue was this part, even though it was brief, where you have Batman and Terry McGinnis, where they actually meet up, and then Terry or Batman's just kind of like, what's going on, So it's cool to see those two interact with each other. But even though it's not as a comic that jumped around so much, and it provided a pretty decent story this time around, it still was nowhere the caliber of a lot of other comic books this week. So that's why this week it did get 3 stars. Again, the one thing I can give to Future's End, and I give them all the credit in the world from DC, is that their art has been really consistent. There has been different artists on the book, but you would never really tell because their art styles are so similar. All right, so we're going to move on now to number 11. Number 11 was a digital comic from Zenescope Entertainment, and that was called Hollywood Zombie Apocalypse. That's right, if you can see the image there on my phone. Yeah, this book was pretty funny because it's Zenescope's way of poking fun at the whole zombie apocalypse thing. And what was funny about this issue is that it even has the cast of The Walking Dead in here. You actually see Andrew Lincoln in here at the end of the issue wind up getting eaten by zombies, which I thought was really comical. But basically what this issue is about, it's about a guy who gets this, he's this unknown actor, he gets this part in a comic book blockbuster movie, and it's called The League of Defenders. And, and he goes to his stoner friend, and he's just, all he does is be a groupie to this guy, and he just goes around saying, oh wow, the League of Defenders is like my favorite comic book besides the Avengers and besides the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and other independent comic books and things like that. So it was a real comical type of book. By the time you get to the middle of the issue, our actor has to meet up with his fellow actors, meet the cast, and we get to see him tour through the building. And basically, how this zombie apocalypse happens is a very Hollywood type of style thing, where a girl is eating a seaweed diet, and she eats so much seaweed she becomes this zombie, and she starts eating people all over the place. They throw in other characters in here to poke fun at Hollywood, and they throw in like this Justin Bieber type of guy, which I thought was funny. That was one of the actresses, type of boyfriend and girlfriend thing. So I thought that was funny in here too. And yeah, it was a good issue. The artwork is very well done. When they show the zombie effects in here with people eating other people, I thought it was really well done. So yeah, fun issue, fun little series here. It's only 2 issues. If you guys want to pick that up, go ahead, check it out. I think you'll have a good time with it. And if you're a fan of zombie books, I think you're gonna like it also. So after reading that one, I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, so next we're going to go forward and we're going to move on to number 10. And number 10 was Earth 2, issue number 28. Now, this issue really focuses around the Furies of Apocalypse. So it brings you 4 little mini stories based off of all the different Furies. So I forgot all their names, which I'm not sure if I can say, but it's Pestilence, which you can see there, and I think there was one by the name of Death, and then there was another one by the name, I think it was like Gluttony or whatnot. So or Famine. I'm sorry, it was Famine, which was this chick right here, that big, huge, gigantic one. And I thought it was really interesting to get to know these types of Furies and how they presented themselves. I thought my favorite one in here was War, on how she was willing to do anything to get up into this particular point. I thought the artwork was very well done with Darkseid in there as well. And I thought this was a pretty cool tie-in to get to know all these Furies of Apocalypse. So nothing really here to progress this story, but again, if you want to learn more about these characters, you're going to learn it here. So after reading this book, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, next on the list today is we're talking about number 9, and number 9 goes to Earth 2 World's End, issue number 5. This issue I felt was better than the actual Earth 2 issue because this actual had a real physical story in it. This book has a lot of artists in it, but it is well done artwork. And this one focuses on Alan Scott and Solomon Grundy. And really in this issue, you find out that they have to work together to stop the incoming doom that's about to happen. Again, gorgeous artwork in here. Really enjoyed it. And I like when Alan Scott's in the book. It's just, I'm a fan of Green Lantern and I'm a fan of him, so it makes the issue for me. I'm trying to remember what else happened in this issue because I haven't read it. It was one of the first issues that I read in here. Oh, yeah. There's one part in here where you find out by the time you get to the end of this issue that someone is alive, and that is Superman. Yeah, so great stuff here. I think Superman fans are going to enjoy this issue because they're going to want to see, oh my God, Superman's still alive in here, and we thought he was dead going into Earth 2. So it's going to be interesting to see how Superman now plays a role in here. So after reading this book, I gave this issue a 3.5 out of 5 stars as well. All right, so now we're going on to number 8, and number 8 goes to Spider-Verse Team Up, issue number 1. And cool cover here. It features, 5 of your Spider-Men that have to do in the Spider-Verse. And this book is basically a team-up book, guys. So if you're looking for a book to actually tie into the story, it really doesn't. I guess you're going to see separate stories of all these different Spider-Men teaming up together. I think that's what we're going to get here. That's kind of the tone that I got from this first issue. and it's not really going to tie into the Spider-Verse main story. But nevertheless, it was really well done. I thought Christos Gage did a nice job on the first story, introducing Ben Reilly back into into our lives, because we haven't seen the story from him in a long time, and we got to see the new Vulture come back. We haven't seen him since the Gauntlet days. So that was interesting to see that. It was cool to see Old Man Spider fight and Spider-Ham fight. Now, the artwork wasn't as detailed as I was like it. It was kind of just some colors and some drawings, but not a lot of detail and into all these characters. But it was still an enjoyable artwork. And, it's always funny seeing the Spider-Ham in there, too. But it just proves that you can learn a lot from Ben Reilly. He has great responsibility. And there wasn't too much to this story. Now, the second story I thought was much better, because it really had to do with Peter Parker in this issue, a young Peter Parker that just got bitten by the radioactive spider. And we got to see Six-Armed Spider-Man and Spider-Man Noir team up together and try to cure him before Morlun and his little brothers and sisters and family come and eat his soul up. And, they wind up being successful in the end of the issue, by the time you get to the end of the issue here. And the cool thing is that there'll be one Earth here with a Peter Parker and the entire family, where you have Ben, you have Aunt May, and Peter. So I thought that was a really well done and written story, kind of touching for me. And so that's why it fell number 8 on the list, because it just had a nice, touching story. But it was a little bit towards that middle ground, because it's not really necessary to buy if you're looking for any tie-ins to the Spider-Verse world. All right. So continuing on, now we go on to number 7. And number 7 was Death of Wolverine, the Weapon X program, issue number 1. Yeah, so my good friend Audrey, comic book mom, longtime friend of mine, kind of said when we got this book in my comic book haul, she said the ending of this book kind of surprised me. So I was like, from there on out, when I read it, I was like, I can't wait to the end. I can't wait to the end. I can't wait to the end, because I wanted to see what was at the end. And right from the beginning of this actual issue is you get to see different people that are in the Weapon X facility wind up waking up, and they have to escape the facility. The whole place is coming down. They got to escape it, and nobody knows who they are, who each other is. They all are little science experiments that Cornelius did, but they all have these different types of powers. And I thought it was just crazy. And then there's this one guy that puts on this gas mask the whole entire time. You find themselves having to escape the entire facility. And there was lots of action. The artwork was pretty good in this issue. But by the time you got to the end of it and they escaped the facility, you get to see this one guy. He keeps having these flashbacks or whatnot, and they're like, okay, well, we're safe now, and you got to take off this mask. And he's like, okay. And when he looks in the mirror or whatnot, he looks just like Wolverine. And you're just like, what? As a reader, I was like, what? That's a clone of Wolverine? Are all these guys like somewhat clones of Wolverines or failed science experiments, from the Weapon X program? But the one thing that was kind of cool was when they were escaping the top of the tower, you got to see Wolverine there in his little, adamantium statue, whatever it is, and they kept they said, don't pay attention to the dead guy up top or whatnot, and they just got in that helicopter. So really crazy stuff here. I don't know what to expect from this particular character from the Weapon X program, but out of all the issues so far that I've read on the aftermath of Wolverine, I thought this one had a good impact here, and it's piques my interest, and this is the one that I'll be sticking with. So after reading this one, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. All right. Going forward, we go on to number 6, and number 6 was issue number 44. Really enjoyed this issue. Right from the start, we get to see our heroes here from the FDA going after the Collector. Now, the Collector is this crazy guy that collects all of the powers from these chibiopaths. Whether it's you taste things, you make things out of chocolate, and they become these crazy weapons. It's been the theme of Chew this whole time. But the FDA winds up going after the Collector, and this is what he looks like here. And he can do any kind of destruction. He has all these powers. He can kill someone with a butter knife because he's got these crazy crazy powers. And right away, right from the get-go, this book has all the violence in the world that this series can bring. And he right away slices off Caesar's hand. And from this point on, there's just action from balls. It just goes balls to the walls. Throws people's out the window. People fall on the ground. We get to see the sergeant. He gets slit in half by this knife as well, and he's being dragged. He's dragging himself with no legs, and it's just intense on what happens. And the FDA thinks they have their secret weapon, which is Agent Pollo, which is the crazy killer rooster. Yeah, but he's off doing another mission at this particular time, going against the Bizarro version of himself, which is so comical. This book, guys, is so unique, and I love it so much each and every week each and every month that it comes out. And now you get to see Tony Chu's little sister come in there and try to do some battle as well. The book ends up really well done because it starts off with all these fights, but then in the beginning of towards the end of the issue, it goes towards right before they went into the Collector's secret headquarters before they did battle with them. So it ended off really well. So after reading this particular issue, I'm going to give this one a, what is it, 4 out of 5? Yeah, I give it 4 out of 5 too. You didn't get to see Agent Chew in this book, so I was kind of disappointed at that. He was in like one panel warning the crew that they shouldn't go in, and obviously they didn't listen to him. And some people just you can't pick this up now. You have to read this really towards the beginning of the series. So that's why I always suggest the trades in this. They're small trades. They're like 4-issue trades. They're really inexpensive. They run for $10 a piece. When you start reading Chew, you're going to really like it. It's really an enjoyable read. So, yep, 4 out of 5 for me. All right, next we're going to go on to our top 5. Top 5, number 5. And that goes to Access, issue number 4. I did an individual review on my own channel right here on Comic Book Corner 2.0, and I want to thank all the people that actually clued me into what really happened in this particular issue, because obviously I missed something, or I just didn't put two and two together of what happens to our actual heroes in here. I realized that they were all out of character, but I didn't get why. And really, they're so out of character in this issue. It's because of the spell that they did towards the end of issue 3 to get rid of Red Onslaught and to get Red Skull back to normal again. And in that process, that spell that Scarlet Witch and Strange did and whatnot, it kind of messed with everyone's mind. So everyone's really out of character here. And after that whole spell, it makes sense why Carnage is the way he is, why Falcon is the way he is, and the Avengers are the way they are, and the X-Men the way they are in this issue. But when I was reading it at the time, I was just like, what? And even in the description here too, if you read this description, it tells you that as well. And I usually read that stuff, but for some reason I must have skipped it, or whatever it was, hinting at that spell is going to mess things up. So artwork, I thought it was good artwork, but the facial expressions didn't capture me as much as some other books do, like Miles Morales does, or I'm trying to think of something offhand, but there's a lot of books that capture me with facial expressions, and this one kind of didn't always do it for me. It seemed a little sketchy, a little bit too dark at times. But we get to see some crazy stuff here that happens, crazy interactions that happen between Nick Fury and Falcon. We get to see Hulk change into this crazy other creature. He's called the Mole or Malk or whatever the heck it is. Again, you get to see Carnage try to become this good guy. And there was just all kinds of things that happened. Tony Stark comes out with this this crazy application that makes people perfect because he wants to cure all the imperfections in people. And there was all kinds of wild stuff that happens in here. Probably one of the biggest things too was the whole thing that happened with the X-Men too. The X-Men want nothing to do with humankind anymore. They don't want them to coexist. They want to be on their own. So in the end, the way this whole thing panned out was pretty interesting. Red Skull winds up escaping because they kind of wanted to kill Red Skull in front of the X-Men, which was another crazy thing. So interesting stuff here. I really enjoyed it. You know, I gave it a rating of 3.5 out of 5 stars when I originally read it. But when people chimed me in and saying, Mike, did you miss it? Like, what's going on with you, Mike? Why didn't you catch what was going on? And it makes sense now. So I upgraded my my original rating from 3.5 to 4 stars, and it wound up breaking the top 5 this week. So interesting read. It'll be curious to see where this whole thing goes. All right, so next we're going to go on to number 4 this week. And these top 4 comics, it was hard. You know, it really comes down to boiling down to one comic being really great, I thought, and out of the ordinary, and something that totally surprised me, to books that are like my favorite characters and things like that, because on a level scale, these books were all phenomenal. And any time of week or any given week, these books could have maybe been a number 1. So number 4 this week wound up going to Green Arrow, issue number 36. This book was really well done. You know, obviously as a producer from Arrow that writes it now, and so they're really incorporating the Arrow world in this comic now, but they're also incorporating pre-New 52 Green Arrow stuff in here as well, with Oliver Queen's personality, where you have Mia Darden in here as well, or Dearden, sorry, and you know, and the book was just really well done with lots of action. Just it captures you. It's very cinematic, like the show when the action scenes happen. There's one panel, and then the next panel you see Ollie just getting ready to shoot an arrow, and it was just insane. Felicity makes her full appearance in this particular issue, which I thought she was very well done in here. Just like her character in the TV show, she likes to talk a lot. She's a quick talker, and it's even mentioned by Oliver in the issue that, you know, she talks a lot. And the only thing I think that can be a downfall here is if you're not a fan of the Arrow show and you're like, well, why can't they separate the two more? But if you are a fan of the show, you're really going to enjoy this. And also with Felicity's lots of jabber, there creates lots of dialogue in the issue as well. But besides those couple of things in here, I thought this issue was very well done. And again, I love some of the artwork in here. It was very well drawn. The new creative team is kind of hitting it out of the park for me here. And by the time you get to this end of this issue, you wind up seeing Malcolm Merlin in here too. So I was like, "Whoa, I'm totally excited for the next issue." So this issue got way up there on me because I'm a huge Felicity fan. She's one of my favorite characters in the Arrow show. She brings some lightness to an otherwise dark show, and otherwise a darker comic that we had from Jeff Lemire's run. And she fits well in this series. So after reading this book, I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right, top three, number 3, and that goes to Hulk, issue number 8. Hulk is getting higher and higher up my list. One day it's going to break that number 1 spot. I really wanted to, but it just doesn't quite get there for me this week. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really love what Jerry Duggan's doing with this series. Just Doc Green trying to cure these gamma-powered Hulks, and this time he goes against Betty Ross in this particular issue. And I thought it was so much fun because he starts off in the issue even going to Doc Samson's gravesite, and he was going to give him a needle to see, you know, he was looking for him to see if he was still alive or dead, and if he was dead, obviously he's not going to give him the antidote, but he was still dead, so he's like, all right, well, I'm going to bury you again. But we find out that Betty Ross is responsible for Bruce Banner's shot to the head, and Doc Green winds up finding out what happens there, and it's just the whole story. It just was like, oh my God, it captured me by surprise that Betty, out of all people, would be the one responsible for trying to kill Bruce Banner. But he was on the Earth was on a level of extinction because of Bruce Banner. But throughout the issue, you're thinking that Rick Jones is going to work with Betty to try to stop Doc Green in his mission. But it's the complete opposite. He winds up slipping the antidote in her drink, and she winds up becoming normal again by the time you get to the end of the issue. It was phenomenal. The artwork by Bagley in this series is so well done. She-Hulk is just, I think she's proportioned beautifully in here, and it's exact where she needs to be as this Red She-Hulk. She's not over-exaggerated. Really well done. You get to see a brief battle between Red She-Hulk and Doc Green before she winds up becoming normal again. And at the very end of the issue, we wind up seeing Betty just crying and laughing hysterically at the same time. And she realized that she's created a monster, just like Bruce Banner did way back in the early days. Talk about, you know, emotion being captured in the comic. This is what I'm talking about. Facial expressions being key here. You can really see the expressions on Betty Ross's face, and you can really feel the pain there, what she's going through. Really enjoyed this issue. Again, it could have been a #1 pick at any week, but there was just so many great comics this week, and I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Great stuff, guys. If you want to jump on here, go ahead and jump on. I think it's issue 4 or 5. And I think this book, yeah, it is a $3.99 book, but this is one of the books that is worth the read. All right, so the next book that is #2 on this week's list goes to, and let me get a second just to bring it up here, guys. It's by Image Comics, and that book goes to, and you're going to be shocked. You would think, Mike, why would you ever read this? But I had to. It just, for some reason, it piqued my interest tremendously. And this book, the #2 book, goes to Penny Dora and the Wishing Box. I thought this book was phenomenal. It looks like it's a kid's book, but you never know if it can take somewhat of a quick, turn, or a little bit of a darker turn. I did find out that this is a 5-issue miniseries, Penny Dora and the Wishing Box, and what happens is that it's sold out on Image Comics. So a lot of people thought that it was very well done as well. This book is written by Michael Stock, but it's inspired by his 8-year-old daughter, who actually wrote this story for her newspaper at school. But it's about this mystery box that kind of comes to her doorstep during Christmas time. Now, for all you YouTube fans that like to watch mystery boxes, or unboxings and things like that to see what people get, this is kind of how it's like. You're reading this book to find out what this wishing box is. And about this little girl, her name is Penny, and she winds up getting this box for Christmas. It shows up at her doorstep. We don't know where it's from, where it came from. So right away, this box presents this mystery. Like, you're like, where did it come from? What is this box about? And her mother, who is divorced, is hoping that it's a gift, it's some kind of money in there. She's wishing for Miracle Penny, which is the daughter, for maybe her family to get back together in here. And I love the artwork. It's so simplistic and it's so well done. And the story was so easy to follow that even if this is a kid's book, it's understandable for kids to read, and it's understandable for the adults to read. And I think everyone can get some kind of enjoyment out of this. And right away, when they unwrap this box and they open it up, it's like, well, what the hell's in here? There's nothing in here. But as the issue progresses, Penny winds up taking it back to her room, and she finds out that the box opens, and it talks and it says, "Make a wish, make a wish, make a wish," and it glows, and she gets frightened by it, and she winds up putting it away in her bed. And then one day her friend comes over, right? And this is how she finds it. She's looking under her bed. It's so innocent and but yet a little bit creepy side, you know? And her friend comes over and discovers the box as well, and opens it up, and Penny's like, "Oh no, just put that away." She doesn't want her friend to see it. And when the box falls on the ground, the cat winds up coming across it because it opens up and it draws the attention to the cat, and the cat makes a wish, and he wishes for like a chicken bone or a ham bone, and right away the refrigerator opens up, and the meat falls on the ground, and the kitty cat gets its wish. So where does the story go from there? Not really sure. However, I really enjoyed it. I think this first issue was an enjoyable read for younger audiences. Now, if it takes that little bit of a darker turn, I'm not sure, but I can kind of see this going towards a Harry Potter way, in that realm where preteens can read this and enjoy it. So we'll see where it goes. But I love this book so much that I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It pleasantly surprised me, and I love how it can attract to all audiences. So that got number 2 on this week's countdown. All right, so what was the number 1 book of the week? Well, you guys shouldn't be surprised because this was obviously a given here. Being that I am a Spider-Man fan, it had to go to the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 9. The long awaited premiere issue of the whole Spider-Verse thing. And finally, Peter Parker gets immersed in what's going on in the Spider-Man world, because he was been clueless this whole time until right after the beginning of this issue. The issue does a great job at bringing you another alternate story in Spider-Verse about another Spider-Man that gets killed, just like a lot of other Spider-Man issues where you got to see at the end, you get to see some kind of Spider-Man get killed by Morlun. So that's the way it opened up, and it was pretty cool because it opened up to a traditional Peter Parker where J. Jonah Jameson winds up screaming for Parker to go after the superpowered bad guy. And I thought that was very fitting there in the beginning of the issue because it reminded you of classic Peter Parker. The book opens up, also the main story opens up very well, getting to know Morlun's family, Morlun and Demius and what's her name, Lady Verna. And I thought it was interesting because she has these pets that have to do with, I think it's Silver Sable and Puma and Kravenoff, so Kraven the Hunter, which I thought was awesome. The artwork is done differently this time around. I forgot the gentleman's name real quick to see if I can remember. Oliver Coipel. I think he did really well here, capturing good moments between Peter and Silk. Silk looks good in here. She looks nice with her new costume. Great artwork here. Nice layouts, great paneling. Really loved how they slowly immersed you into all the Spider-Man that was being involved in this series. First off, you get to see them doing battle against some wannabe, superior Spider-Man soldiers. And then, again, Spider-Man 2099 shows up. You wind up seeing Mayday Parker wind up showing up in the issue. And then, a couple more people come along, like Spider-Ham. He shows up, or Peter Parker. And then you wind up seeing, who else comes into play throughout. Oh, Kane makes his appearance in here as well. Old Man Spider-Man. So they did a good job at describing every single Spider-Man, what Earth they came from. And, it even said, Gwen Stacy shows up and she goes, oh, it's your readers, it's all your new favorite, knowing that the Gwen Stacy issue did phenomenal, and they're kind of, putting a nod to the fans saying this is your new favorite Spider-Man. So I thought that was pretty awesome too. And it was really cool because the way they showed the Spider-Men were just like, it's just all this action, and then all of a sudden it cuts to a scene where it's like, there's this Spider-Man, and I really enjoyed that. And I loved how, as a reader though too, you might feel a little bit overwhelmed with all the Spider-Men that were making their appearances in this book. But I think it was kind of purposely done because Peter Parker felt overwhelmed also, he was like, well, what's going on? So I guess they kind of wanted the reader to make you feel that way too. And then at the end, they wound up showing Miles Morales getting captured or being attacked by Lady Verna's lapdogs there. And then it backs it up with the secondary story with the whole Moreland's family here. And you get to see them and their characteristics and how they feast on all the Spider-Man and whatnot. And I thought that was really neat how they showed different aspects of Spider-Man's universe here in the web. And you even got to see like the old Spider-Man cartoon in here. So if you look closely, there's lots of little nods to different time periods of Spider-Man. So yeah, this was a really great issue. Honestly, guys, 5 out of 5. If I could give it a higher rating, I would. This definitely gets my pick of the week, just being the fact that we've been anticipating this so long. And I think so far up to this point that Spider-Verse has done very, very well. I thought all the Edge of Spider-Verse issues, most of them, got you excited for what's to come. And I thought this Amazing Spider-Man issue was just a good lead into the story, a good setup to what's to come from Spider-Verse. I thought the introduction to all the characters are very well done, and it was just an enjoyable read. Exceeded my expectations, actually. And yeah, so that's why it gets #1 this week, guys. Definitely a great issue here, and I can't wait to see where it goes this coming week with Spider-Verse issue #1. So the first issue of, I guess, the story or whatever it is, because it starts with that and then ends with issue #2. So if you're a Spider-Man fan, there's gonna be something there that you enjoy, and that's what makes this so good. If you're a Peter Parker fan, obviously you're gonna like it. But if you liked, you know, Spider-Man Noir, you're going to like that. If you like Ben Reilly, you're going to like that. If you're going to like Mayday Parker, you're going to like that. So as a fan of somewhere down the time period of Spider-Man, there's going to be something there that you're going to enjoy. So why not pick it up and see what it has to offer? So there you have it, guys. There is the countdown for the week. You've seen the worst, you've seen the best, and then you saw everything else in between. So in the comments below, leave me what your favorite comic book of the week was. Leave me what your worst comic book week was. And guys, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. And it's Tuesday night, and if you guys want to check out the Comic Frontline live, which is my group channel where we do a live show every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you guys can check that out and watch us talk about all kinds of cool comic book stuff. So guys, as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next review. Take care, fans.